How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for willing to do this.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for bringing me on here.
Yeah, so I can just start from the beginning and kind of go in chronological order with questions.
Sounds good.
So, did you always want to pursue entertainment in some way?
I did. I initially wanted to do singing. I still want to do singing. It's not like I don't want to do it anymore. But yeah, I started off singing when I was about 7 years old. I sang on stage at my elementary school, and um, and then after that, I kind of got involved in a lot of like musical stuff at my schools. I started doing solo singing kind of for like smaller school events and then eventually bigger like district school events. And then I also enrolled in a couple of singing dance groups. So that was super fun for me. And then from like doing singing and dancing, like eventually one of the instructors for the singing dance groups was like, "Oh, hey, you should get your daughter an agent," to my mom. And so she ended up getting me an agent, but bless my mom's soul, I don't think she knew the difference between looking for an agent for musical and then singing and stuff, um, as opposed to like a commercial agent, you know? So she ended up getting me a commercial agent, and I started getting sent out for commercial auditions. Um, and my very, very first one that I booked was it was a Texaco commercial, and we shot, God, I think it was like 2 hours away. I can't even remember exactly where it was. Maybe it was like somewhere around thousand, maybe past Thousand Oaks. I
Okay.
can't remember. But that was my very, very first like on camera shoot. But I was a kid at that time, so they treat kids much, much differently for on camera shoots than adults.
Hmm.
So like kids get spoiled. It was nice. But yeah, and then pretty much from there on out, like I started getting other commercial auditions. And then I left my very first agency to continue on with school because then school got really, really busy when I entered um, middle school and then high school and stuff. And eventually I signed on with another agent. And I just remember the shift from getting auditions for, child roles or like for roles that are for my own age group,
Yeah.
um, to like getting cast and getting auditions for roles that are specifically tailored for like little people, like people looking for, people with dwarfism who can play creatures, who can do body doubles as kids. So it was really, really interesting to just kind of see that shift in like even the types of auditions that I was getting.
Yeah.
So eventually I got cast for Jim Henson Company for a word party. And initially they cast me for like the motion capture for the job. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like I'll do the mocap for it. And then they were like, oh yeah, we're also looking for the voice actor for the role. And it's going to be a Mandarin speaking tortoise. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, that's great. Like, I speak and I understand some Mandarin. And they were like, oh, you do? And I was like, yeah, yeah. So I can like mimic along with the voice actors, you know? Because everything was recorded live for that motion capture job. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. So like I can mimic them, like I can understand kind of sort of like what they're saying.
Yeah.
And they're like, we actually haven't cast the voice actor yet. And you sound like you've got like a really fun, bubbly personality. And we kind of want to see how your voice would work for the character. And I was like, oh, okay. Like it wasn't like voice acting was just something that I never thought that I could do.
Okay.
And and I don't know why, because I had all the equipment and stuff for music. And then I also had the acting background as well. I just never combined the two really.
So did you start to get a preference for doing voiceover opposed to on camera then?
Yeah, definitely. I booked my first voice acting gig with the Henson company. That was 2018, I think. I think it was like 2018. But in the last year, um, they released some of the episodes for it, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I realized like how much fun I was having in the studio, and how much I wanted to do a lot more of it.
Mhm.
So I jumped onto Twitter for the first time in a long time last year. This was like during the pandemic and everything.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I stumbled across the voice acting community on there. And that was kind of where I got my start for voice acting, just kind of, meeting people in the Twitter voice acting community space, mingling with them, seeing the casting calls that were around on there, just getting my feet wet. Uh, and I realized that I had a lot of fun with it. So I kind of made that shift from pursuing specifically like on camera and music work last year to pursuing specifically like voice acting work with hopefully a little bit of music on the side.
And so was the first anime Kakushigoto then?
Yeah, Kakushigoto was my first anime that I did. And I got to voice Nadila. I actually got really, really lucky for that. And I still to this day have no idea how the casting call landed in my audition inbox. Like I submitted myself to a whole bunch of rosters, had no idea which ones went through. One day just woke up and I saw the audition for Kakushigoto, and they were looking for somebody of Indonesian heritage to voice Nadila, who is an Indonesian housekeeper.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, that's super cool. And they wanted somebody who could authentically deliver an Indonesian accent. And so English is actually like my second language. Like my first language was Indonesian. And
Mm.
I had to take, I think it was like a couple months of like ESL classes to like work out my Indonesian and then like start speaking fluent English. This was like way back when though, like first grade, kindergartenish. But yeah, so it was interesting because it was an accent that I can very, very easily fall back into when I'm with family, but it wasn't ever an accent that I put on for performances,
Yeah.
or for like any sort of acting work. So to jump into this role and be able to convincingly deliver like an authentic Indonesian personality was really, really nice. And it was honestly kind of refreshing because at the same time, it also felt like I was playing in a
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I found that one really, really cool. And I love that that was my first foray into doing anime.
And so by the grace of the gods would have been a little bit after that.
Yeah, by the grace of the gods, that one actually came pretty soon after I was cast for Kakushigoto. And in that one, I played Celia, who is more of like a support mage character, which is so funny because I I'm a bit of a gamer and I honestly hate playing mages. I'm more of like a hack and slash, don't want to think about anything, like kind of hate strategizing. Like my very first, oh man, I think it was like Ragnarok. Like my very first classes that I would play for RPGs were like tanks because I could literally go in, hack and slash, don't really worry about like dying too quickly.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like to strategize. I was just like, want to get in there and want to bash some people in. So yeah, so that was by the grace of the gods, and I loved it. Like I loved that. I honestly loved like doing support roles because of the amount of like efforts that you do in anime.
Yeah.
And I don't know about like other voice actors, but I think doing efforts kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of like a lot of the efforts for, I mean, especially for like Rum and Shirley for Shadow Sauce. I mean, Shirley, you don't really like hear too much of her anyways. But like Rum, Rum was pretty much like all effort work.
Mm.
And like during the sessions, it was just like, let's chase the efforts. So that was super fun.
Yeah, I was gonna, of course, ask next what was it like stepping into uh, the character in Shadow's house. That's a really cool series.
Yeah, I loved it. It gave me like Rosen Maiden Gothic vibes,
Yeah.
like older anime vibes. And I love that because I was also like super into the whole Gothic Lolita, like growing up when I was like in middle school and high school, like that aesthetic. So it kind of really was nostalgic for me in that sense. At the time, I believe that was my biggest role so far, doing Rum and Shirley. And I think it was just really nice because like Rum was a Rum's a very shy character. Like she's a very nervous, very shy personality. So which is great for a beginner voice actor like me because I jump into
Mhm.
the session. And like with anime work, and this is something that I'm still getting used to, but I'm a lot more used to it now. There's a lot of cold reading done with anime work. So you go into the session, you don't know what to expect, and then they give you the script pretty much right then and there. And so I was just like, okay, I don't know what to expect here. And it was fun for me to just kind of let my nervousness for the sessions take over because that's her character anyways.
Yeah.
So during some of the sessions, it was like, oh good, like you got the nervousness down, you got the personality down, like, oh, she sounds super shy, oh, like, and it's like that was authentic. That was, that was authentic nerves, you
Right.
know? Um, so, but but yeah, like I loved playing her. She's super cute. She's super shy, and I love seeing her character development um throughout the first season. Because I mean, I'm not gonna spoil the end, but she does, gain confidence, and there is like a personality dynamic there,
Right.
which is lovely to see for her. But I just remember, like, at the end of every session, I was always like, "Oh my god, want to give her a hug. I'm so sorry
Yeah.
that you've been thrown into this horrible environment. Can we just like pluck you out of there for a hot second and put you somewhere a little bit nicer?" Yeah. So yeah, that's what jumping into Shadow's house was like for me. And I love the rest of the cast. The rest of the cast are super talented and really fun to play off of.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so, how was your particular story with getting involved in Genshin?
So for me, I remember getting the first, because then they did several rounds of auditions. So I remember getting the first round of auditions in my email inbox, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this one was obviously like for Genshin because they specified in the title, and I was like, oh, cool. Um, so I auditioned for the first round. I didn't get it, and then a second round of auditions came through, and they code named the audition, they code named the characters and everything this time around. So I even though the art was similar, I honestly thought that it was a different game coming from the same company or a similar company because there are a lot of companies out there that like especially smaller companies that like to pull inspiration from other bigger games and try to make it their own. So I thought, oh, okay, well, this looks very Genshin inspired, not even thinking that, oh, it's the same studio and it's kind of the sort of the same art. This must be Genshin. No, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe Genshin inspired. This is super cool. So I auditioned for it, and this was months before they told me that I received the role. So I thought I didn't get it. And then one day I got an email that was like, from their studio that was like, "Oh, you've been cast for a non-union game. Would you like to confirm?" And I was like, "What? Yes, I'm confirming this." So I, without even like fully thinking like what it was, I just thought that, you know, they probably cast me for an NPC role for one of their games because their studio does a lot of stuff. So I didn't even know what game I was doing. I was just like, okay, so maybe it's like an NPC role for a small game. They probably cast me for my demo. I probably didn't even audition for this because I don't remember sending my auditions into like this particular studio. Came time for the sound test, and they wanted to test like the quality of my booth, my microphone equipment, and everything. Wanted to make sure that I was able to dub to picture and see everything kind of coming in real time. And so the engineer was like, "Okay, well, we're going to show you a little bit of video, and want to see if you could kind of, mess around and dub to it, just to test ADR on your end." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, cool, why not?" And so he went and got permission to show me the video. And at first, the video didn't show up, and it was just music coming in through my headphones. And I was like, "Sounds really familiar. Like, what is this?" I actually played Genshin when I think it was like a month after its release, and I played it for a couple of months. But then I got busy with another production where like they needed me on set for like 12 to 14-hour days for
Yeah.
a couple of months. So I stopped. And then I heard the music and I was like, "This sounds super familiar. Like, where have I heard this from?" And then finally they got the picture working. Oh, before that, I was like, "Hey, am I allowed to ask, like, what did I get cast for?" And I was like, and if you're not allowed to say, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out on my first day of recording. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You were cast in Genshin Impact." And I was like, "Oh, okay. That's super cool." And, like trying to suppress and hide the excitement, trying to remain professional, but also super fangirling inside and really freaking out. And then I was like, "Holy shit, like I get to play an NPC in Genshin Impact." I had no idea who I was playing. And then it was like after the sound test, I think a couple days before my session, they sent me the script for it. And I was like, "Oh, this is a good amount of script for an NPC. Maybe they're involved in like, in a quest, or maybe several quest lines, or I don't know, maybe commissions, like repeatables, something." And then I scrolled through and noticed that there was like gameplay script, and I was like, "Gameplay script? Like, am I playable?" Oh, no, that was the second time. So the first time they sent me the script, it was for the 2.0 trailer where like she kind of shows up with the bubbles.
Yeah.
And so those were very, very minimalized. That was like the first set of scripts that I got.
Okay.
Just that one little chunk. And yeah, and then I remember at the time I was just like, "Oh, okay, so very, very small role, NPC, like just a small chunk of lines." And then went into the session, and I asked about it. "So you actually do play like possibly a playable character?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then Tractor was like, "Here, let me pull up your audition lines." I was like, "I auditioned for this?" I didn't even remember auditioning for it. And that was because they had everything codenamed. So he pulled up my audition lines and I listened back to them and I was like, "Oh, right. Did audition for this like months ago." So I pulled up the audition email, and sure enough, like there she was. And I was like, "Oh, okay, so I did audition. It's just I didn't remember, and I didn't realize that this was the character that I was playing until literally day one." So that was how I got into Genshin. I had no idea what I was doing and what I was being pulled in for.
And early on too, did you right away find aspects to relate to her?
Um, yeah, I loved that she was a strategist, and I love that she's a she's a total, well, she's definitely more of an introvert, but I feel like I'm an ambivert, and especially during this pandemic, I've really been able to embrace my introverted side a little bit more. And so when recording for her lines, it was nice to kind of just tap in there. Like, honestly, the sessions were super calming and super soothing because she's such a calm, very grounded character. So, going into that, it was really nice for me to just kind of embrace that introverted side. Plus, for a lot of introverts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really, really I relate to her on that level where she's definitely an introvert, needs her time alone, but has a lot of responsibilities outside of that where she has to tap into her extroverted side a little bit more.
Yeah, that is a really interesting aspect of her that and a lot of people in the Kokomi mains subreddit, when I posted that I was doing this, they said that you do a really good job of handling her determined yet vulnerable
Yeah, yeah.
qualities.
Oh, that's so sweet. Nice.
Some other questions that they had, the one of the highest rated ones was what your single favorite line is for her.
My single favorite line. Um, Honestly, I find the rest and rebuild line. I know it's like one of our combat lines, but I feel like I relate to that one a lot just because I find myself having to do that and having to remind myself to do that a lot just because especially now, I get really, really busy and I'm on the go and I'm on the move all the time. That I don't ever really remember to take time out of the day for myself to rest, rebuild, just kind of center myself. Just because I feel like we all tend to do that. We all tend to get wrapped up in, the busyness of our lives that we don't give ourselves that time to just kind of rest, just to give ourselves the time that we do need.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah. So that's definitely one of my favorites and one of the ones that I relate to the most.
And is sustaining her voice pretty easy for you?
Yeah. Sustaining your voice it's pretty easy for me. It's just kind of going into my upper register. It's quite natural. Only when I get super excitable most of the time, uh but I've learned to just kind of keep it grounded and keep it calm for her reads especially.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And has there been any, in terms of differences between you and her, has there ever been any difficulty in the recording process because of that, or no?
So I'm naturally a lot more bubbly and a lot more high energy than she is. So during the recording process, I was constantly being told to like remember, like she's calm, she's grounded, she's super chill as a character. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yep. Tap back into that chillness. Like maybe not have coffee the morning that I have those recordings, so I'm a little bit more chill. Um, but it was more, yeah, in terms of like my personality and her personality sometimes just having that little bit of a clash, um it wasn't honestly difficult at all. It was just maybe once or twice during a session I'd just be reminded like, hey, remember, like she's a bit of a calmer character. So I'm just like, right, chill, chill.
Some people asked what your favorite character is outside of Kokomi.
My favorite character outside of Kokomi, I'm a Kazuha main.
Oh, okay.
What's up? Yeah, I find that he's super fun to play, and I love that he's got like that double jump to him. Helps traveling around and makes it so much easier.
Hmm. And one fun one was asking, what do you think her favorite music genre would be?
Ooh, what do I think her favorite music genre would be? Honestly, I think she would enjoy classical music. Like I myself enjoy a lot of J-pop. So there's a small part of me that's like, I hope you enjoy J-pop too, Kokomi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few people that asked what your favorite character interaction with her and like other characters is.
Ooh, my favorite character interaction with her and other characters. I love her interaction with Kujo Sara because you know that they're enemies, but at the same time they've got this deep respect for each other.
Yeah.
So like regardless of the high tension settings that they're put into, they're always very, very respectful with their encounters with each other.
These aren't several people just said that they didn't have questions. They just said that they wanted to tell you that they switched the game to English specifically for her voice.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh. You guys are the best. But honestly, like I actually, well, I now play the game in English, but when I first started playing, I I just kept switching languages. Like I didn't stick to one language. Like I had it in Japanese for a while, had it in Korean for a while, and then I had it in Chinese for a while. Uh and now I play it in English because I have a lot of other friends who are in the game that I want to support. But everyone's really, really good. So like regardless of what language you play it in, everyone does a fantastic job.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you became friends with other people in the cast like immediately then?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was immediate. Like, some of them I met on Twitter the year before and have gradually kind of built a little relationship. And then others I met after I got cast in the game. And then there were a couple of others that I met and spoke to in limbo, like after I was cast, but before being announced.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So it was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did do Mark Witten yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Nice. I've never actually met him. So
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm excited to watch the interview.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other characters that you would like to play if you weren't voicing Kokomi?
Honestly, I am not really, just because I feel like I've listened to everyone else's voice lines and I'm like, damn, they've done a great job with this character. I don't know if I could do that.
Okay.
I've gotten really attached and I've fallen in love with everyone else's choices for their characters that I don't think it's something that I would even want to take away from. But I'm honestly just super happy that I had the chance to be pulled into such a huge game and a game that I love, um who who would be able to say that, in their life. I didn't honestly, I didn't think that it was something that I'd be able to say, that I was cast in a game that I play and love. Didn't think I'd be able to say something like that in my lifetime. So just being able to, I'm super thankful.
Several people that asked if you could say the hardship line.
Sure.
Okay.
To survive hardship, you must prepare for hardship.
That's great.
There you go.
I know, of course, your career is just starting, but the way that my final question with interviews is usually, what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? I'm not sure. It's not something that I've really thought of.
Okay.
And I guess this is kind of my first brush with that question. So yeah, I mean, as of right now, I don't know. I'm just kind of riding the wave and, just trying to do what I love.
Well, I can say that when I did make the post asking for questions, I mean, it got over 500 likes. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that's super sweet. You guys are all awesome. Yeah, but honestly, like the interactions that I've had with the Genshin fan base itself, like on Twitter, mainly where I interact with the fan base, it's been super positive and people have been really, really nice so far and super kind. Uh, and it's crazy to be receiving the amount of attention that I'm receiving now because it's not something that I ever thought I would have gotten for myself. But at the same time, it's really it's really uplifting. Like especially when I have bad days and some of the tougher days, like I'll jump onto Twitter and then I'll see some of your comments on there, and it's super nice and it's super refreshing and brings a smile to my face.
Is there anything that you want to, like a final message you want to say to the Kokomi subreddit?
uh, don't give up. Keep chasing your dreams, because you don't know. You might actually end up living your dream.
Well, thanks. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.